So let me introduce what the game for game list actually is first. So I'm I've been following games for a long time. I know you've been following a lot of games for a long time, and the way that we follow video games is, we hear about a game and then we hear more features about a game, or we hear, whatever it is, our hype levels fluctuate. And so each game that we hear about, we hear new things about it. We hear things that have changed, hear things that have been added. And during the course from a game's announcement to its release, a lot of things can happen. Platforms can be dropped. Tech issues can come up. You never really know what can happen. So this is essentially I came up with the idea because I'm a boxing fan and the pound for pound list. And so I wanted something to be like a pound for pound list for video games, except it's about wish lists and hype lists and how that evolves over time. And so what we're going to be doing is selecting games that we are excited about. These aren't necessarily games that we are guaranteed to play, although we are most likely going to play a lot of these games on our list because we really want to play them. I know I do want to play the ones on my list. And so these are games that come out in 2021 for now, and that they are, if they don't have a solid release date, they are sort of projected to come in 2021. And and it includes content updates, patches, DLCs, anything major that wants you to be hyped about a certain game. So I'm trying to think of if there's anything that I missed here. I don't know. Is there anything that I missed? And so we're going to be convening. This is a list that's only going to be adjusted every time we meet, because I expect to have another show roughly in about a month, either probably the beginning-ish of April. I want to convene again, or the end of March, depending on your schedule and my schedule. We'll figure out another time to meet. But this list will be adjusted, and whenever a game gets released, it gets removed from the list, and you have to replace a new game on the list. Also, anytime we meet, any one of us can move a game around on the list and drop it off the list if we want, replace it, whatever we want to do, because it's our list, pretty much. So so it should be interesting. We're going to have it on the site that you can track it. And so this is the March 2021 game for game lists for GameReviewPad. And I'm very curious to see what the list is. And we'll be starting from number 1 and going down, because I think it's a little more interesting to hear the games that are like 5 through 10-ish, because I think there are a lot of games that we might be able to figure out each other's games near the top of the list. But the bottom ones, I feel, at least to me, I don't know how you feel, are a little more interesting. And so we talked about anticipated games in our favorite games show, and you had said No More Heroes. That's why I have it listed at the top, but I don't have it on number 1 because things can change. So do you want to go first with your pick of your first game for game, or you want me to go first?
Sure, I'll go first.
All right, so are you sticking? So what is your first one?
It is not No More Heroes 3 for number 1.
Okay, so what is it? I'm curious.
It is actually going to be my number 1 pick as of now. Is actually going to be Monster Hunter Stories 2.
Monster Hunter Stories 2?
Yep.
And what's the projected release date on that?
Summer 2021.
Summer 2021. All right, so what's it about Monster Hunter Stories 2 that makes you so excited about it?
Just the fact that they're actually going for more story based. Because I've tried the Monster Hunter franchise, I just can't get into it. But I have props for people that do like the franchise. But I feel that this is the one. This is I feel this is more like the lines of like the Pokemon Let's Go, where it's not the game isn't simplified. It's just the fact that this version or this Monster Hunter's sequel, which from my understanding, the first Monster Hunter stories was on the 3DS. But the fact that this game is basically going to be more very heavily story based and not too much battle based seems to be what caught my attention, considering how I'm basically playing more story based games than any other type of games just because I don't have the time to play these long drawn out story games, which like I said, because of that, as much as I would love to play these JRPGs, I sadly just don't have the time for them. So, and the trailer alone just kind of just set my interest very up for it. So that's why I basically had this as my most anticipated game as of now.
Yeah, Monster Hunter Stories is interesting. I'm yeah, they showed it at on the recent Nintendo Direct, I believe, and we'll be talking about the Direct a little bit more later on because I'm sure a lot of the will be maybe might end up being a recap. Who knows, depending on uh, how these lists go. So, but yeah, Monster Hunter Story is definitely a game that is interesting to me at the very least. So, yeah, it's definitely an interesting game and a different view on the Monster Hunter games that we've seen before, or the more popular ones that we've seen, I should say. So, my number one, I'm going to spend a little bit more time talking about my number one. So, do you have any guesses? Do you think I'm sticking with Path of Exile 2 or going to a different game here?
I suspect a different game.
Yeah, so this was a switch that I was not anticipating to go to. This was also a switch that I had to really, really think about because when I really, really thought about it, I was like, man, am I really excited about am I more excited about this game than Path of Exile 2 because of what it is, it's the game that I'm going to pick is a game that I was very pessimistic about, but I'm kind of at ease about it now. I'm very at ease, and I really, really liked what I saw. It was long rumored, and it was just recently confirmed, and that game is Diablo 2
Um,
Resurrected. So I'm
yeah,
going to get into this a little bit here because there's a lot of, pessimism about this game, and it's well deserved because Blizzard has not been a very as good as they used to be, and I get it. I completely get it, but
but Andre, you have a smartphone, don't you?
yeah, that's one of the reasons why there's a lot of pessimism about it. But I watched the Blizz, and I will say that this probably would not have been my number one if we had done our show prior. So when we had it scheduled before, I would have probably left it off the list just to be safe. But I did watch the BlizzCon panels, and one of the things that needs to be understood about this game is that it's not being made by Blizzard. It's being made by a company that you're very familiar with, Louis. You know which company?
Hmm. Are they? Wait, is it Panic Button?
Nope. It's a company that just remastered a game that was on your honorable mentions list.
Ooh. Wait. That's just the only one that's coming off the top of my head because I know they did a lot of ports that to the Switch that could have been done, but they did it.
It's Vicarious Visions.
Oh,
They did the Tony Hawk remaster, and they also did the Crash Bandicoot remaster. And so they have a good track record. And I was really impressed by their showing at the panel because they were very, it seemed like they understood that this is a game that they can't get wrong. That if they screw this thing up,
yeah.
it's over for them. so, and the game is actually going to be the engine is going to be the same pretty much. It's just adding better graphics on top of it. And they are making changes. They're adding shared stash. They're adding, it's also going to be a global ladder. It's coming out for all systems. It's coming out for the Switch. It's coming out for PlayStation. It's going to have controller support for PC, and it's also going to have cross progression, so you can load your character on any platform and play it. And it's not crossplay yet. It's not crossplay, and that's one distinction that needs to be clarified. But I'm very excited about this, and also the global ladder is going to be everyone. The ladder is going to be everyone, and it'll come with Classic and Lord of Destruction. And it's a 2021 release, and the game looks beautiful. If you haven't seen the trailer, I recommend you check it out and watch the panel. So I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I do feel there's maybe a little more negativity than is deserved about this because Vicarious Visions is handling it. They do have a good track record.
Yes, they do.
And based on their showing on the BlizzCon panel, it's clear that they understand what their job is, that they can't screw this thing up. And if they do screw this up, they know it's going to be a lot of trouble for them. So they know, they're very aware of how sensitive the Diablo community is, and they've made it very clear that they don't want to change too much. And I know a lot of people want them to change some of the things that are that they didn't like in the original version, which is fine. But one thing and this is something that I actually agree with, release the game as it is, as we all remember it, and they made it very clear that they want people who never had a chance to play it, because you got to remember, this is a 20-year-old game. A 20-year-old game. There are people that weren't born yet that didn't play Diablo 2. Think about that. That are big gamers today. So experience what it was, experience what it is, what we all experienced before. It'll have the modern updates of shared stash and sharper item graphics and all that stuff. And then after maybe a year, I'm definitely in the camp of, maybe make changes where it needs to be. So, Diablo 2 Resurrected is my number one choice. I'm surprised you didn't guess that one. I'm a little surprised.
Yeah, it just dawned on me that they just talked about that recently.
Yeah, so, all right, let's move on to your number 2.
And my number 2 is going to be New Pokemon Snap.
New Pokemon Snap. So, what's the release date on that right now? It's March, right?
April 30th.
April 30th? Okay, so there we go. So what is it about New Pokemon Snap that has you all hyped up about it?
It's basically the sequel to one of the best spin-off games of the franchise, because I remember renting this for the N64, and yeah, it's just basically, granted the game is super short, but still, you're taking pictures of Pokemon. And back then, when you took pictures, you took your copy of the game to Blockbuster. Remember Blockbuster? To get your
Oh
pictures,
yeah.
to get your pictures printed out.
Oh yeah.
So, well, Granted, now we don't have a Blockbuster anymore, but you can still do the features on the Switch and just share your pictures online. So, I mean, instead of Gen 1 Pokemon, you now have current Pokemons to take pictures of. And I'm sure the game still won't be as long. And I'm pretty sure, I think this is going to be a full priced game, which wouldn't surprise me, but I'm still looking forward to this since
Uh,
it's another Pokemon game where I don't have to know too much about the lore. You're just basically going around taking pictures. It sounds
yeah,
it sounds
you believe
simplistic,
it or
but it's
not,
really
Pokemon Snap. Yeah, believe it or not, Pokemon Snap is one of the games that I never played for N64, and
well.
yeah, I don't know if it seemed like more of like a I don't know it didn't seem it seemed like the kind of game that was like not ever like the most popular, but like in its like own niche kind of thing, like a I don't know. It just seemed like I think one of the reasons why I never played it is because it just never rose above the popularity of like Smash, 64, Mario Kart, GoldenEye, Star Fox, all these other games that just
Yeah,
like Zelda, Ocarina, all
yeah,
those games.
yeah. I guess because it's more of a laid back. I think it's because it's a more of a laid back game.
Yeah. All
I
right.
mean,
Let me.
I mean,
Yeah.
the worst thing that can happen is you just get a low score.
Yeah. I'm kind of curious to see how that game does, and I think the fact that it's the Switch, I think that could do some interesting things with it. So
And
I'm
it's
kind
being
of
done
curious to see
by
how that.
Bandai Namco.
Yeah, that's true too. So yeah, that'll be that'll be interesting, definitely for sure. So all right, so my number two is going to be
Ah, because
Path
it's
of Exile 2. Now this is one that could easily be bumped to 2022, but I think that there's still an outside shot it comes out this year. So, Path of Exile 2, I'm pumped because they're going to revamp the skill system and they're going to, it's going to be it's a free content update. And they still haven't announced a whole lot about it, but they have announced enough about it that makes me super hyped about it because mostly everything that they do to the game makes it better. And it's going to be a campaign that, at least what they said already, is going to be a side by side campaign to the game already there. And I'm just very, very excited because I do think that it will make the game more accessible to other players because you won't have to worry about linking items anymore and stuff like that. So, definitely a game, and Diablo 2 Resurrected was really probably the only game that could top Path of Exile 2. And I was sort of like, even as excited as I was for Path of Exile 2, I was just a little surprised, like, oh wow, I might have to move Path of Exile 2 to my number 2 now. So I think that's going to be a very interesting game if Path of Exile 2 comes out this year. But, you never know. So this could easily be a game that gets pushed to the side. So, what's your number 3?
number three is you said earlier that we all might have a chance to play these games on our list. I have a feeling that I know I will not play this game on my list, but I still want to play it somehow, some way, and that is Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart.
Ratchet and Clank. Ratchet and Clank. Ripped apart.
Or Rift.
So, uh, so, so what is the release date on that right now? It's coming out
Uh,
pretty soon, right?
June 11th.
Oh, Rift Apart. Yeah, Rift Apart, June 11th. So, what has you excited about this game?
Basically, it's a Ratchet and Clank game, and I love me some 3D platforming games. And the fact that they're basically, since we saw it on the first PlayStation reveal event, where they basically showed features that, yeah, even though we'll get into it later with the Sony State of Play, but yeah, this is a game that they showed features, especially with the dimensions, that they can't pull that off on a PS4. It would, if they did pull it off, there would be a lot of load times. So just the fact that it's another Ratchet and Clank game, and all the games to me show off how basically how beautiful the game can look on a PlayStation console, and that is basically one of my most, yeah, that's definitely out of all the PS5 exclusives, that is my most anticipated for that, for basically that console, which I still don't have, and I don't see myself getting to probably next year.
Right. Yeah, yeah, I'm intrigued by that game too, and I have never played a Ratchet and Clank game, believe it or not. For some reason, I don't know why I never played a Ratchet and Clank game, but maybe it's just cuz like it seems like I don't know, it just when I look at all the trailers of Ratchet and Clank, it just seems too easy. Like there isn't much of like a challenge and you're just flying through the levels,
It
just,
is, it is some, it does have its challenging moments, and unless you want to collect everything, then yeah, it is somewhat of a breeze to get through, but it does have its spike moments.
yeah, the one thing that intrigues me are the characters. The characters seem very interesting.
Oh yeah,
And the universe itself.
yeah, and basically the banter between the two characters is pretty hilarious. They have their moments.
Yeah, so that's definitely that's definitely one of those games that I don't know that I would play right away if I had a PS5, but it would definitely be it would be one of those games that I would it would probably be the first time that I try out a Ratchet and Clank game
Yeah, that'd be a
if
good
I
game
had
to
a P.
that'd be a good game to start on.
Yeah, yeah. I did, yeah, and like you said, those trailers they showed were very good. When they revealed it, I was impressed. All right, so the next game for me is a game that we're gonna have some content on this channel, and this falls under the category of a content update, major content update, and that's Disco Elysium Final Cut. And this is actually supposed to come out this month. So Disco Elysium is a game that's like a detective RPG, and the original release came out 2 years ago now, and it got a ton of accolades. It was actually one of my most anticipated games of 2019, but I chose not to get it because I wasn't confident that my computer could run it that well. And then then the 2020 happened, and I got my new computer, and I had my eye on it, and there were so many games that came out in 2020 that I was just like, eh. And then they announced Disco Elysium Final Cut, which is going to add voice acting to the game, and it's going to make it so much more interesting, I think, as long as the voice acting is good, of course, which I have a feeling it will be. And so being able to play that game, and also someone who wants to do like a playthrough of that game so you don't have to strain your voice reading all the dialogue. So that'll make things a lot better. So Disco Elysium Final Cut, March 2021. There's no solid release date. Uh, I guess it could potentially be pushed back again, further back, but hopefully it comes out pretty soon. So I'm really looking forward to it. So what's your number 4?
Number 4 is going to be, which was previously my most anticipated, No More Heroes 3.
Okay, No More Heroes 3. So why is that your number 4?
Basically because I think what plays a huge part in it is the fact that it's coming out, I guess, towards the early fall. So I'm still, like I said, I'm still looking forward to playing this game. It's just that, oh, it's being pushed back that far. So my hype for it has somewhat diminished just a tad, but I'm still looking forward to how this story ends for Travis Touchdown.
Yeah, I've never played a No More Heroes game, but the game looks really interesting. And part of the reason why I didn't play it because it required a Wii. And did they just port some of the games to PC? I'm trying to see. I'm trying to see if remember if they did or not. But in any case, No More Heroes 3 looks really awesome. And when they announced it, I was like, oh, this game looks pretty cool. I already thought it looked cool before, but like this is the kind of game like I don't know if I would buy a Switch for it, but it would definitely be like on like that like second tier of games that I would definitely want to play if I had a Switch. I could definitely see myself playing that game. So
yeah, and he got a me costume for Smash Brothers. Though I was hoping he would actually be in Smash, but oh well, at least he's in there some way, form.
yeah, it's one of those. Yeah, it's definitely a series that I think that's another series that I think has its like core fan base. Like it's not a series that like everyone knows about that you have to kind of know about it to be excited about it. But the trailers make me excited about it, which is
Yeah,
why I think this game is going to do well.
exactly. If
Yeah.
not, it'll be like the first two and be a cult classic.
All right, my next game is a game that I mentioned in our favorite games discussion, and it's 12 minutes. It's this game about a guy stuck in a time loop who gets murdered, and then I'm trying to remember the exact specifics, but in any case, a guy gets killed in an argument with a couple, and then the police are called, and then a guy gets killed, and you have to try to get out of the time loop. And it's got Daisy Ridley, Willem Dafoe, I think, is one of the other voice actors. But this is a game that I think is it's going to be like one of those like I could definitely see this game doing well, and also a game that some people might not be into. It might be a short game too, but I'm very interested just because of the concept of it, of trying to escape a time loop and try to get out of a situation, and how all the elements in that game come together. 12 minutes. Pretty. I don't know when there's no solid release date for it this moment, but it still says 2021, so hopefully it comes out this year. So, any thoughts?
Sounds intriguing because I think I wasn't this shown during one of the Xbox's events, or
Yeah,
it
it
was
was
probably
shown
something similar.
recently.
Yeah,
Yeah, they announced the voice actors recently. Might have been the Game Awards or some recent or something before that. So Yes. All right. So, what's your number 5?
Number 5 is something that I didn't know would happen, but I'm glad we're getting it, and that's Mario Golf Super Rush.
Mario Golf Super Rush, and that's coming out in June
25th.
25th. Yeah. So, what has you excited about this game?
Well, the fact, what was the last Mario Golf game I played? I think it was on.
3DS.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, that was the last Mario Golf I played, and it's a very arcade style golf game. I mean, the only thing that's killing time for me right now is Everybody's Golf, which unfortunately Sony axed that developer, so Studio Japan is no more. Thanks a lot, but
Yeah.
but until this game comes out, I'm still gonna be playing a lot of Everybody's Golf. But what makes this game so good is the fact that they are bringing features back that fans have been clamoring for since the one on the Game Boy Advance. I haven't played the Game Boy Advance one, but I've heard a lot of good things about it. So they adding in a story mode and are adding RPG mechanics for that story mode to build up your golfer.
Hmm.
So just the fact that that's the feature that many diehard Mario Golf fans were clamoring for. They're getting it with this, so I get to experience what made basically the Game Boy Advance game so good.
Yeah, Mario Golf Super Rush is a game that I'm really looking forward to. And it's not on my list, actually, but it was not that far off from my list. It's not a game that I would necessarily buy as my first game if I got a Switch, but the RPG mechanics that you mentioned looks pretty cool. I also like that like time trial rush mode of running to each hole. I think that's pretty cool.
Yes,
And
that's gonna kill friendships.
oh yeah, and I also, Mario Golf for the 3DS was a game that I was like always close to buying, but never quite pulled the trigger. It was also maybe I'll get it, now that I could probably get it for cheaper around now. But and I always saw that that game had like some decent multiplayer features, and so as long as Mario Golf Super Rush has online, I think it's going to be a really good game. And they didn't explicitly say it, but they kind of implied it in some fashion. So by saying like Nintendo Online not included, but I don't know, it was a little weird, but I do think it might be online.
I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah. It would be malpractice to not have that game online.
Well, this is Nintendo we're talking about.
That is true. All right, so Mario Golf Super Rush, a very good choice, and I'm not surprised to see it on your list. All right, my number 5 is actually a remaster, and it's a series that I have never played, actually. It is Mass Effect Legendary Edition.
Oh my goodness.
So that comes out May
14.
14, yeah, May 14. Yeah, Mass Effect Legendary Edition. Now that I have my good computer, now that it's the Legendary Edition is going to include all the DLCs. It's
That I
got
had to
one
pay
through
for.
three. Say that again.
That I had to pay for when they first came
Oh,
out.
exactly. Yeah, and I think that this is like what I needed to get me excited to play it. And it's also, this might even be another series on this channel for all we know, but maybe I'll play the first one offline and then do the second one on the channel because the second one is highly regarded. I know that for sure. very
Yep.
highly regarded. And the third one had a lot of controversy on the ending. I remember that much.
Which you don't have to worry about anymore since that won't be there.
Yeah. So Mass Effect 3, Mass Effect Legendary Edition. I'm very very curious to see. I'm hoping that the hype, it's worth the hype, and this is a game. This is something that could easily fall lower on my list if I find negative things about it along the way until May 14th. But that's why Mass Effect Legendary Edition is my number 5 over a lot of other games that may not be remasters. So that might be newer games because I just never touched the Mass Effect franchise, and this seems like what is needed for people who didn't play Mass Effect. So, all right, what's your number 6? I mean, number 6.
It's gonna be a franchise I never thought I would be able to play unless I imported it, but it's happening, and it's the Famicom Detective Club.
Famicom Detective Club. And what's the projected release date?
May 14th.
Oh, another May 14th. Okay. And so what's in that Famicom Detective Club?
It's basically just a visual novel detective game. So basically, just think Phoenix Wright in
Uh,
that way. Instead of it taking place in a courthouse, it's basically taking place in a small town in Japan where basically a murder happens and then you have to solve that murder and you basically
mhm.
investigate people and to see who the culprit is. So the ending does vary on whether or not you get it right or wrong. And
uh,
from my understanding, it was highly regarded as like a very popular Japan only franchise. So the fact that they just said, "Yeah, we're bringing it to the states," that was literally one of those left field moments.
all right, one second. Let me engine right here. All right. You still got me, right? All right.
Yep.
So let's yeah, so Famicom Detective Club, I did like sort of see some stuff about it, but yeah, I'm kind of curious to see how that is because detective games, I'm always a fan of like mystery type games, and I never quite play. I play like a little bit of Phoenix Wright, but not a whole lot about it. But I'm curious to see how it does, how well this does, and let me see. Famicom Detective Club. Yeah, that definitely looks interesting. All right, so ready to move on to the next one? Let's see. What did I have on my list here? This one's a more of a left field pick because it's an indie game and people may not have heard of it, which is why I'm glad that I have this game
Hmm.
for Game List because one of the reasons why I wanted to do this is because I can put games that maybe people have not heard of and that they can put on their radar and look it up and figure out what it is. And that game is Alaloth, Champions of the Four Kingdoms. And what this game is a detective. It's not. Oh, I'm sorry, not a detective game. It's a top-down dungeon crawler that has like CRPG elements, but it has combat that is like challenging, sort of like Dark Soulsy combat in a little bit, but a top-down view, and it's got RPG elements and skills. And let me see, Champions of the Four Kingdoms. And this is scheduled to come out 2021. I think I have a release date for it, but it might be embargoed, so I'm not gonna put it on the stream. But it's coming out in 2021, and it's for PC. I don't know if it's coming to the consoles eventually, but It's one of those games that I think could be very interesting if it's done really well. If it combines those top-down elements of like Diablo and looting with a very challenging combat system and a good storytelling associated with it. So, Alaloth, Champions of the Four Kingdoms, comes out 2021. And have you heard of this game?
No, I haven't. So it's a good thing you brought it up.
Yeah, it's definitely flying under the radar. But I actually did a trailer impression of this. Maybe it was last year at some point. But I'm probably gonna do more trailer impressions of this as it gets closer. So the next one for the number 7 for you is what?
Uh, Here's a hint. You put it as your number 5.
Ah, Mass Effect Legendary Edition. Mass Effect Legendary Edition. So, yeah, I thought that this might enter on your list because I know that you're an Xbox person, and this came out on Xbox. So, I can't say that I am completely surprised that it's on your list, but I'm very glad to see it on your list. That we have at least some crossover. So, why is this on your list?
Basically, just because supposedly since this is it's a remaster, so and it's a trilogy. Even though I technically have the trilogy, but separate, this is all I guess going to be all in one box, and it'll be fun to go back and basically play the. Now that is a franchise that I know I will have time for, but I think the only difference will be when I played it for the first time, I didn't have as much going on with my life, so I was able to do all the side quests and everything. I was basically able to 100% all 3 of them. This time, not so much. So I'm not sure if I'll be able to 100% the game again as I did previously, but it'll be fun to see like what enhancements they've made to the game. And I'm debating whether, even though I did play the trilogy on the 360, I'm debating whether they either get it on the Xbox One or just get it on PC. So that's going to be the main
PC.
difference.
You can never go wrong with PC. That's
But
the answer.
well, I can plug in my PC controller for PC. So, well,
Yeah.
I'll I'll see. I'll think about it.
Unless you have one of the new Xboxes.
Oh no, I still have the, as people call it, the VCR Xbox One.
Yeah, so you should I think you're better off just getting PC and seeing how it goes.
Well, I did luck out on getting PC of Cyberpunk over Xbox, so let's make it 2 for 2.
All right, so my number 7 is a game that I think some people have forgotten about. And it's supposed to come out, I think it's going to come out this year. The trailers for it have me excited. I didn't play much of the first one, but I think I will play the first one. And that is Psychonauts 2.
You're right. I completely forgot about that.
Yes, Psychonauts 2. Jack Black is going to be having a song in there, which I think could be a little interesting. And, Psychonauts, I think this game is like one of those games that is gonna be like creeping on people. It's like, oh wow, Psychonauts this year is really good. All these other games we thought about, we thought we knew were coming, but Psychonauts, just happens. But Psychonauts just arrived suddenly, and we like the game. I think this game has a lot of potential. I love all of the animations shown in this game, and the platforming seems pretty cool, and the storytelling looks like it might be really cool too. So I just can't wait to see what this game has. And the only reason why it's not higher on my list is because they really haven't talked much about it. they just showed us trailers, so like some like general trailers and not a whole lot of like gameplay related stuff. So this is one that could easily move higher on my list as time goes by. Psychonauts 2. And what's your number 8?
Number 8 for me is going to be Halo Infinite.
Halo Infinite. Halo Infinite. And that's fall 2021, right?
Yep.
So Halo Infinite is a game that that I'm even intrigued by. So what's making you hyped up about this one?
Basically, from what we saw when we first watched that Xbox conference about basically when they showed the gameplay, that it definitely looks like they're going back to the roots of Halo 1 when it comes to basically how open world it is. Even though Halo 1, it was pretty open world, it was still linear, but it felt open world as by how big the environments were. So I am happy that it looks like they are going to that, but let's face it, people don't care about the story, they care about the multiplayer. So I feel that's what's gonna
And it's going to be
be.
free, right? I think it's going to be free.
Yeah, that will be interesting as well.
Yeah.
But I think
Yeah.
this might. Well, I think I'll. Well, they say they're making it make sure that it works for the Series X and the standard Xbox One. So we'll see.
Yeah. It's yeah, I've never played I've mentioned it before, I think, but I've never played a Halo game, but now that I have Xbox Game Pass, it's one of those excuses to play Halo for me. For
Well,
me,
they
it's
have.
mostly about like priorities. Like, all right, well, there are other games that I might prefer to play, but Infinite could be a good entry point. The only thing that has me a little concerned, and I actually have this on my like waiting list, like a sort of I'm sort of hyped about it, is that it was delayed and it was delayed like a year, which is I'm not quite sure what to make of that.
Well, you can get a
So
lot done in a year.
yeah, but it's also like the cynical part of me is like, oh well, they didn't quite like they like messed it up somehow, and now they have to like redo it, or like there's like something else going on there. So I don't know. I'm whenever I see something delayed that much, and then there's no like huge explanation about it, it makes me a little concerned, especially when they had previously like announced a release date for it, like a ballpark release date for it. So I'm
Oh yeah,
curious to see how it turns out.
they pushed it back because of the oh so positive reception it got. It's like your responses to this was so positive, we're gonna delay it a year to make it even better.
Yeah, so I'm curious to see what it turns out to be, but it could be the first Halo game I try out. Could be maybe the second or third game I try out, but I think I will try it out at least when it comes out. And it's definitely the game that might move a few Xboxes off the shelves.
I don't know
Uh,
about that because it is coming to PC.
yeah, that's true. That is true.
Speaking of, the Master Chief Collection is on the Game Pass for PC.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so my next game is another game that I think that people may have forgotten about. It was shown a few years ago, and it's a game that I was excited to see, but they haven't really given many updates. but it's still in development, and it's probably gonna. I think it might come out this year, but it's also a game that when I first saw it, I was a little skeptical that it would come out in the current in the PS4 or Xbox One generation because of how well it looked. Although I wasn't obviously not concerned about it on PC, and that's Skull and Bones.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's a forgotten game on Ubisoft. So that's where I found that game. That's where they showed that game, and we haven't really heard much about it. But ship combat looked pretty interesting. There are a lot of games, experimenting with ships lately and ship travel and ship. Like there are some Steam games that I see that have ship related stuff. So, but Skull and Bones seems like really high quality as far as what they showed before. And the only reason it's not higher on my list is because they haven't really shown much else. And sort of like I mentioned just with Halo, like not a whole lot of updates about it. And I don't know. My hype level has sort of dissipated slightly, but I'm still interested in seeing what it is. So, Skull and Bones it is for my number 8. What is your number 9?
Number 9 for me is going to be, maybe this is a game I could hopefully finish, and that is Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD.
Ah, The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. So why did you not finish it before? And what's the release date?
July 16th.
July 16th. So why didn't you finish it?
Because of the controls.
Yeah, the Wiimote.
Yeah, I mean, I was fine with it in Twilight Princess, where all you did was just flitch the remote just for Zelda or for Link to use his sword. But yeah, just I mean, I could understand what they were doing with Skyward Sword, where you had to move the Wiimote in a certain direction for Link to swing his sword. But it just got to a point where, okay, this is getting tiresome. I could have easily defeated this enemy if I just used the standard controller. And during that presentation, they did state that even though you can still use the Joy Cons for motion, but you can use standard controls and just use the right analog stick for the sword directions. So I
Yeah.
said to myself, okay, this may be the reason I'll get back into it. Because I think I played, like, I think 5 or 6 hours into it on the Wii and then just stopped. So I can see this, just because of this feature, I can see myself hopefully finishing this game. And surprisingly, this is going to be the first Legend of Zelda game to run at 60 frames a second.
Right. Yeah, yeah. It's Skyward Sword is a game that I was a little surprised. Well, we'll talk about this a little bit later, but yeah, the sky. I think that the fact that they're changing the controls will get more people to play it, and maybe the Joy Cons will be a little bit better than the Wiimote. Who knows? Because the technology is better, but but hopefully, hopefully that things will have been tightened up so it's a lot better than it was before.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting. I may like first play it with the Joy Cons just to see how it works, but I feel I'll be playing most of it with the standard controller.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think a lot of people will. So, hold on 1 second here. I gotta let my cat out. All right, back to business here. So let's move on to my number 9. And this is a game that is sneaking up on us that I think has very little hype, but it's from a game developer that that is famous for saying a certain phrase on the game show, on the Game Awards. You know who I'm talking about?
Yes, we do.
And so the game is called It Takes Two. And the release date is actually March 26th. And so this is a like a co-op platforming kind of game. And by the way, the famous phrase is "F the Oscars." It's I want to make sure I get his name correctly here. Joseph Fares, and he and this is so this game is interesting. It Takes Two, and It Takes Two is a game where it's similar. It seems like it's similar. It's different, I should say, than A Way Out. A Way Out was the previous game, his previous game, and it was like a prison break kind of game where people controlled things and where it was a game where like one person controlled one prisoner and another person controlled another prisoner, and so this one seems like a platformer kind of game, and you could do puzzles to get there. A lot of puzzle solving, and It Takes Two. And so I'm really looking forward to this. But I actually saw that they're gonna have this special thing where if one person has a copy of the game, then you can invite a friend to play. I don't know
Which
if
is
you
good.
saw that. Yeah. So maybe this is a game that we'll play together. If you
What
get it, if
platform?
you on PC, maybe not right away, but it's also a game that may find itself on EA Play by the end of the year. So
So it's not
it's
on consoles. It's just PC
it is
only.
on consoles. It's on
Okay.
consoles. Yeah, yeah. But I'm not sure if it has cross-platform.
Good.
I have
Good
to check
point.
that. Yeah. But in any case, yeah, It Takes Two. When I was putting together my list, I was like, oh, what are all those games coming out? And then I was looking at the release date. I was like, oh, snap, it's coming out in March. And there's like no hype for it and like no buzz for it. But it looks like a pretty interesting game. I love the art style of the game too, I should say. So,
Yeah.
all right. So, let's see. Number 10 on your list.
And number 10 is gonna
Oh
be.
wait, yeah. Never
Go
mind.
ahead.
Go. Never
Okay.
mind. You go for your number 10. I actually messed up the order on mine, but we'll
Oh.
rearrange ours before we move on. So,
Okay. So number 10 was a game I completely forgot about, but then I was just looking through the games being released, and this is something that's going to be interesting to me, and that's Gotham Knights.
Gotham Knights. That's a good one, and that may or may not come in 2021, but we'll see.
Right.
We'll see. Yeah, Gotham Knights. So, what has you hyped about Gotham Knights?
Just the fact you get to play as other characters. I mean, even though on the was it Ark one of the Arkham games you was able to play as a oh man, it's been so long. But the second Arkham game you was able to play as Catwoman for a bit. And I think in a recent one you can play as Robin. But it would be nice to play as basically as different characters now that spoiler alert, they said it in the trailer that well, Batman is presumed dead, but you know, it's Batman. So
Yeah.
you get to play as the other heroes. So I think it'll be fun to basically play as different characters and still have that, and it still has that Arkham control that everybody knows and loves. So it'll be fun to definitely play another. Basically, it's not Arkham, but it feels Arkham-esque game.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that game too. It's definitely one of those games that I think a lot of people, I feel like we get a ton of Batman games. We've gotten a ton of pretty good ones too, but multiplayer in that game could be interesting. I'm curious about that. So,
Yeah.
all right. So my mistake here was It Takes Two was actually my 10th game. I actually overlooked another game. So my number 9 was Evil Genius 2 World Domination. And that comes out March 30th. So this is like a game about making, it's like a sort of a RT, it's sort of like 2 Point Hospital a little bit, but it's like a where you make decisions, and it's actually the sequel to a game that came out a long time ago, and it's a game that I think could be interesting. I've never played the first one, although I'm intrigued to play it. And it's developed by Rebellion, and so I'm very curious to see what it is, because it is sort of a base building game, and I love I love RTS games, and the whole like cartoony aesthetic to it is kind of interesting. So, Evil Genius 2 World Domination. It's just made my list, but it's definitely up there as a game that I'm interested in. So now that we have completed our list, is there anything on your list that you feel needs to be moved around or that you want to replace? Now that is there anything there that anything you want to change?
As of now, everything is perfect. Although I do know that my number 3, I don't see myself being able to play number 3 anytime soon.
Ratchet and Clank, yeah, yeah, that's yeah, yeah. Maybe you'll move that out at some point in the next month or so. But yeah, I'm pretty. Yeah, those you got two interesting lists. A lot of Nintendo on yours, obviously, which I'm not surprised. But
Yeah.
and a lot of and we got Mass Effect as our common game here, and who knows, maybe we'll have more common games in the future. But so when we convene the next time, which is probably going to be April-ish, I'm gonna have games that I need to replace. If Disco Elysium comes out, that'll be a spot. Uh, Evil Genius and It Takes Two. Those are three games where we will have replacements for sure. And is anything in yours? No. So, but like I laid out, anytime we meet to adjust our list, we can replace any game, even if the release date hasn't come yet. If there's a game that you forgot about, or whatever reason you want to replace the game or change the order, we'll worry about that. We'll do that next time. The next time we meet, and each time we meet. So, and in the future, maybe we'll have more lists, but more kinds of lists depending, like, I was thinking maybe in the future we do like an indie game specific list or something of that nature, but I want to get the ball rolling on this first and see how things go, and see, make sure that we can keep up with this pretty well enough before we add more to the mix. So yeah, game for game lists. We'll have it on the website, and you'll be able to follow along and see what moves up, what moves down, what gets dropped, and yeah. So that's the game for game lists, and like I said, no solid guarantees that we'll play every single game or do a review every single game, but high probability. High probability. All right, so yeah, that's it for the game for game segment right here.